Welcome to Digication Scholars Conversations. I'm your host, Kelly Driscoll. In this episode, you'll hear part 2 of my conversation with Patty Goodman Hayward from Northeastern University. More links and information about today's conversation can be found on Digication's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Full episodes of Digication Scholars Conversations can be found on YouTube or your favorite podcast app.
You are about to hear part 2 of our conversation with Patty Goodman Hayward from Northeastern University. Please be sure to listen to our previous episode to hear part 1 of this conversation.
Yeah, so how are the students involved in the rubric development?
So in human resource management, I shared, since we had one now,
Yep.
I shared the guidelines and the rubric with them. And, again, they caught, well, we want it to be competency based. So, taking out the stuff about you have to have a certain number of assignments or a certain number of classes, but you need to have evidence to show competencies and identify certain competencies. And then professionalism. They thought it was important to identify, have a professionalism, have a clear persona of who they're representing, that who this person is. So it was really helpful to have their perspective on what they saw value in someone evaluating their own ePortfolio. And they wanted a peer review. That was another interesting piece. They wanted a mechanism in the ePortfolio that peers could go and look at their ePortfolio and provide them with comments. And I was just like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Great.
And am I right that the other program was like, no?
Well, the other program, we do it as an assignment, but it didn't come up. Let's just say it that way. It wasn't suggested.
But it is interesting, in programs, that you're attracting different types of people and what all of the preferences are. And, there's many schools embarking on this for the first time that I'm sure are thinking, oh my gosh, we could have asked the students to help design that rubric. Oh my goodness. The students can design this template that we're going to be using. Let's go. And what an opportunity also for the students to know that their perspective and the information that they gathered is something that's going to not only resonate and support them, but probably the next cohort that comes in. There may be some tweaks along the way, but what a great contribution to the program. And I did not realize that you had alumni coming to review those ePortfolios that were part of the showcase. I think that Jeff might have been part of that event. So
yes, he was.
But I hear that there's another one coming up soon.
That's right. That's right.
I'll try to get my seat there.
That's right. Yes, we'd love to have you there. And it's so important to have this relationship, the collaboration between Digication and the university itself, to really show that we're supporting each other. So we've provided, hey, we'd love it if this was a possibility, and then you all are looking at, well, could it be something that can be done? And there were huge changes between the old Digication and this new Digication.
Yes, there were.
Yeah. And it really it shows the growth and development on both, for both sides, that we're getting to grow with that, and you all are really hearing what it is that we were hoping, but we didn't know how to explain.
We can do that part.
You did that part, so that you can connect the LinkedIn in your ePortfolio. That's perfect. See, that's what we want.
Oh, well, that's what keeps us going. Our community is so inspiring, and it just gives us so many ideas. And especially this last crazy year and a half that we've had, there have been some really exciting new ways that people have been using the tool. And, you know, it also just, you know, then we have our light bulb moments like, oh, you know, a whole group of folks at all these different campuses were doing this. Let's build this. And so we love that stuff. So the collaboration piece and the community that we get to work with is just so much fun. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you today.
Well, no, and it's wonderful that you have this openness, that it is easy to reach out. It was fantastic that we could have one of your staff to go through creating a new ePortfolio. And we actually have that as one of our foundation videos that we have the students watch.
Oh, cool.
So they can kind of seeing that. It's so helpful because she made it look so easy. And then you're like,
and the students
so
are like,
it is
okay,
actually
it's easy.
Yeah, I'm making it difficult because I want to do all these things right now. I can just start with it easy and build.
Yeah.
But we actually used an ePortfolio in a conference presentation.
Oh, you did?
So what we were presenting was our our development process of the ePortfolio for the program. And so we were like, why don't we do it in an ePortfolio?
Why do we need to go to PowerPoint? We've got this right here.
Yeah. So that's what we did. So we had one page that was, you know, who we are. And then we had another page that talked about the process and built that out. And then we had another page that showed examples of ePortfolios. And so the ePortfolio, which was one link that we could share with everyone that attended the conference, they could really see through all the different layers and it added a level. Even though it was complex to explain what we had done, by being able to share the ePortfolio, people had an ability to unpack it.
Yes.
You know, so they could take on their own time and they could pull out pieces that they might want to consider using in their programs.
Yes. And also forward it on to others. You know, we go to countless conferences and meetings and you know, we hear that it's going to be uploaded and where to go. But I just know, you know, when you don't have the link right there, so often that material, you know, ends up being you know, some notes you jotted.
Right. Or it's so massive that it won't be shared on an email.
Right. Yeah. You won't be able to download it. So
exactly.
I think it's very, it's great because in addition to having your presentation, you've also got this website that you can refer to. And when you go to do your next session, you can link that one to this one if people really want to get under the hood.
That's right. Yeah.
So Patty, you mentioned you're collaborating now with one of your students on a book. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yes. So it's been just fantastic. So there's 3 of us that are co-editors.
Okay.
One is the student from this particular program from the corporate and organizational communications. She was my student from this work group. And then I just didn't want to let go of her, quite honestly. she helped me with a couple of other conferences. In fact, the one that I was just mentioning, we did an ePortfolio. She also spoke at that conference.
Great.
And then I have another student who also is in the corporate and organizational communication program. And the 3 of us have very different backgrounds. We're different generations. And we came together and there was a global studies conference in 2019 that was happening in Poland. And, you know, we were kind of thinking it would be really fun. This is an educator, right? It'd be really fun if we got together and put together a proposal for this conference. And so that's what we did. And we decided, you know, what's interesting is how are women leaders around the world able to kind of get things done? Is there some commonality in their linguistics? Is there something common in their communication? So we presented this research. We did case analysis on 3 different leaders from the world. Each one of us chose one person.
I want to see this too.
We cared about. And we actually, from that, we ended up developing a taxonomy and a whole pyramid about this. We're creating a concept that a couple of years ago wasn't as frequently used, but now you can find some. But we have our own definition of cultural transformation. And so now we have a publisher who is backing us, and we're collecting 40 stories. We have contributors that are writing stories about a female leader and what was her drive or passion challenge, and then what did she do as an outcome to deal with that, and still doing that as a sustainability. We've so far collected about 20 of the stories. We're halfway. And they're from Africa and China and Thailand and Russia and Pakistan and India and United States. And so we're still looking for some from other areas. And then we're going to analyze going across all of these chapters that come in 3 different parts. So business, science, politics is one grouping, education and cultural development is another grouping, and then social service and empowerment is a third grouping. And we'll test to see if our grounded theory of these values shine through in these stories. And so that book is going to be published in February of next year.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Oh, I look forward to that.
Thank you. And I'll add it to my ePortfolio.
Perfect.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I bet I haven't actually seen your portfolio. I'm gonna need to take a gander at that.
It's still the old
Work
version.
in
I still have to I have to move into the new. I know I do I know. I will get it done. It's been on my list.
Oh, I know you will. You've just been a little bit busy, Patty.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, I get it. You've made it through this year and a half. You're doing fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so, well, that is very cool. Now, one of the other things you mentioned, I'm really excited about this connection that you have kept with your alumni. So you have them coming in and looking what the current students are doing. And I'm curious if that has led to any introductions within the industry for your students. Has it led to any employment opportunities?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not sure. I mean, I can't give a specific story to confirm that, but it seems like that's a logical thing. One of the reasons that we started a WordPress website, a blog, a couple of years ago, and that was one area that we were connecting with our alumni to be editorial advisory board for the blog. And since we had that in place, that's where we were kind of like, this would be great for them to also be looking at the ePortfolio. So it was a kind of a natural connection. And then what we've seen over the years is it's almost easier to have the alumni do a survey and get to see these ePortfolios than to try to have them connect on a monthly basis for blog reviews.
Yeah.
So we've been able to maintain a group of volunteers of alum to go through, and they seem to be excited to look at what are these ePortfolios and what do you know now about this person, and what do you see that's impressive related to what they've completed during the program.
Yeah. Does that feedback then get shared back to the students?
It does. It does. We don't give an exact. They are anonymous surveys, but we do pull out specific comments, especially for the ones we have kind of runner-ups. We let them hear information, and then the top ones that are selected based on scoring. Comes back down to the scores. Those are the ones that we highlight at the showcase.
When the students got to see the feedback from the alumni, have you heard from any of the students if there was something that was said that was unexpected for them, or maybe an area of their portfolio that they weren't as proud of, and that's happened to be where they got the recognition? I always find this kind of feedback can just be so informative for the students, because they sometimes don't see their own value and worth and achievements as clearly as someone might from the outside.
Yes.
So,
So I don't have a specific example on that one either, but I will say that I have found it interesting that the ePortfolios that do come to that top 3 or 4 are
mhm,
different. They're not
mhm,
like all exactly the same.
mhm,
So that's kind of interesting that the scoring, the way that our alumni end up scoring them, is they're not just always looking for a specific format or a
right.
specific phrasing or pictures. You know,
Mhm,
they really are looking at what the individual is bringing of themselves and how that comes through and connects very
mhm,
strongly. And in terms of some of the comments, I think that's some of the comment that comes through, is that even though I've never met this person, I feel almost as if I know you.
mhm, mhm,
You know, you've really brought through uh, your personality. You've identified clearly your brand. You've been able to uh, connect the evidence of your learning with who you are as a leader in this area, and what your
mhm,
goals are. So I think those are the kinds of things that really help the students, and or I should, by the time that they're at the showcase, they're now graduates too. But
yeah.
um, that's one of the things they comment on, is the some of them, it was very stressful doing an
Mhm,
e-portfolio, but they do comment on the positive value that they have found from the process,
mhm,
and how they're really glad that they had that opportunity to have an e-portfolio. Some still maintain their e-portfolio. Some, you know, they share it. They put the URL and part of their signature in in
mhm,
their emails. So
mhm.
add it in their LinkedIn profile. You'll see
Yeah,
their e-portfolio URL.
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Patty, I am so glad we had a chance to connect today. It is wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for sharing your story and the process that you've been through with your students. I think that this work group and alumni connection is just a fantastic way to engage the students and your graduates with the program. And I can just imagine it becomes this big support network. And, it just makes so much sense that you've been kind of behind that endeavor with what I have gotten to know about you. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's been fun. I would
Good.
encourage any other educator that's looking at it, don't look at it as another thing to do, but something to really get to um, collaborate and be one of the learners. And
Yes.
as an educator, that's a fun piece.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Digication Scholars Conversations is brought to you by Digication, a technology platform powering the most innovative ePortfolio programs in K-12 and higher education. Our website can be found at digication.com. This episode was produced by Drew Albanesius. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for watching.